It's another time to seize the day, and I make you welcome. This is Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. I am Henry Wibiki.
I am Jane. I know.
All right, we're starting off today with our newspapers and to see through all that we have from there. And right after that, in a jiffy, would be our main conversation also for today. But please do well to be part of what we do. Have a say in what we say when you check up on us. You can always find us at enterprise@tvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. We're very so honored to have with us in our studios, Barrister Van Sofeli, Barrister Law Public Affairs Analyst, and Innocent Adoluba, a journalist, a public affairs analyst. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
My pleasure.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, Jane, let's kickstart today.
All right,
with the newspapers.
starting off with Vanguard newspaper, we have on the top left there, Delta, PDP defectors unwilling to register for APC. And right there also, we have NPAN bags federal government's $220 million fine on Meta.
Yes, and also on the bottom strip there we have tension in Ondo as Amotekun police clash over custody of suspect and exhibits.
Right, still on Vanguard newspaper, we have the on big story, inflation erodes banks. Inflation erodes bank profits, jacks up costs.
All right, we have other interesting stories here, but just before we get into some of them here, let's talk about the salient happening, of course, right now in Nigeria, and that is the GTB, the Verydarkman feud, or saga, as you would, as Nigerians would see it. I'd love to start with you, Barrister Van Sofeli, on this particular matter. It's so unfortunate that a financial institution that should be non-partisan is gradually becoming such in the eyes of Nigerians. I'd love you to speak to the implication of some of these things.
Yeah. When the news broke out, it was said that the last place he went to before his arrest was the Gtbank. Okay, because when you are doing investigation, you have to first find out where the person in question was last seen before his disappearance. Okay, Gtbank was where was last seen with the murder. A day to that day, he had told the public from his Facebook page that was going to go to Gtbank to help the mother recover funds that were allegedly deducted from the mother's account by the bank. So it was during that process, even though the bank released a video to show that he had left the bank before he was arrested. But Nigerians are not ready to give in to that. Nigerians are saying that the bank played a role in his arrest, that the bank informed the EFCC to come pick him. Now, what is important is whether the bank was involved or not. Why was he picked? That's, for me, that's what is much more important. And Vanguard did a story this morning wherein they said, because the EFCC had not spoken till now, they have not said anything. But somebody did a report, and so the view that inside sources within the bank, that within the EFCC, had given some hints as to why he was arrested. And the major reason given was that there were a lot of complaints from people that he uses his social media handle to blackmail them, to bully them, to stalk them, and the rest of them. The EFCC have compiled those complaints and went after him on the strength of the Cybercrime Act, a violation of Section 24 of the Cybercrime Act. That is the reason he was picked. Now, to look at that effectively, we must understand that the reason for the Cybercrime Act is not to use it to chase people all over the place. The Cybercrime Act in Section 24 gave an expansive view, provisions on how not to abuse the internet space or how not to abuse electronic devices when you are using it with other citizens, law-abiding citizens. And what it says is that whoever uses it to create pandemonium, panic, use it to plan kidnap, to cause insurrection. And the bottom line is when you use it to spread falsehood. Okay? Now, because that provision is there, and we now have chapter 4 of the 1999 Constitution, which also talk about the citizens' rights and freedom of expression. Okay? Now the police, the EFCC, law enforcement agencies have abandoned the fundamental rights of Nigerians. Anybody who now uses the social media to criticize government, criticize powerful individuals in society, they just pay police, they just go and arrest. Or you instigate the EFCC and they just go and arrest. And the bad thing about it is that before you're able to establish and prove that your statement does not constitute cyber stalking, cyber honor of the offense, you would have been in across the bar. And God help you, they pick you on a Friday. So your fundamental right would have been violated for Saturday, Sunday, before that day. And you need to, because that was why sedition was abolished in our laws. Because sedition used to be what they call criminal defamation. Okay. When that time there was no social media. Yeah. So when you make statements that reduces the person's reputation in the eyes of the right-thinking members of society and cause them scandals, stigma, and the rest of that, they can go to court and file a complaint, a criminal complaint against the person. The person will be prosecuted. Now, there is this case, the Court of Appeal ruled that sedition is actually at variance with Section 39 of the 1999 Constitution that guarantees freedom of expression.
Okay.
And so sedition was abolished, criminal defamation was abolished. To 2015, when the Cybercrime Act was passed into law, it came in and replaced what has been defaced. Yes, because now, like I said, you will be behind bars to prove what you said was true and that what you said was not false and all that. Because the police now arrest on, if you criticize the government now, I mean, let me give you an example. I went on Arise to talk about the defection in Delta State.
Yes.
Whilst I was in Delta a few days ago, I did some interviews where I was criticizing the government of my state and all that. The next morning, someone called me, speaking in my language, a woman, that he has a case, that the case is so serious that he want me to help her. I said, okay, let me hear your case. Give me the summary from phone. He said, no, that this case is a case that you want us to sit. I knew that they've sent her to get me. I knew already. They've gotten me before, where they broke my jaw, so I know how it works. So I now told her that I'm in court. Now in court I was. No, you cannot. I was in court. I was actually not in court, but I told her I was in court because I need to scatter everything in her head, anything they want to build. Because I know people are there with her.
Okay.
You understand? So I had left Asaba. I was already in Lagos when I posted that I was in court at the Federal High Court, Asaba.
Oh.
You understand? So they just look for a way. You understand? This morning I was invited to News Central to talk about the same thing. Yesterday when I was called, I started processing the person who called me. I reached that conviction by intuition that this one is free from any of those things before I left. I most well left because I didn't want to go out to do Zoom to scatter it more for them. But later I said, no, this one is not. And I went. I did it. So they will be tracking you. You understand? They will be tracking you. Of course, I supply them a phone number in my social media account that I'm no longer using for a long time. So that's the one they'll be tracking. And it will lead them to another destination. I'm not there. So we just know that they will always come after you when you are talking, when you are saying the truth and all that. But the most important thing is that for the man in question, the Verydarkman, even though he likes to go overboard by saying the EFCC is this one is this, that one, he just say he has proof, he have he goes overboard. Majorly because he's unschooled too. What he's doing is good, but he doesn't know where to draw the line, doesn't know when to apply, because what the role education ought to play
Exactly.
is eroded completely. So now he has been picked up. So let them charge him to court. So it is now the court that will decide whether or not he violated Section 24 of the Cybercrime Act. But the painful thing about the court making that declaration is that before the court comes to that conclusion, you would have suffered till. That's what I mean.
Sure. All right, one would think that is it a crime to become a youth or to be a youth in Nigeria, given the social media handles of a lot of youths and the consequences for Gtbank itself?
Well, being a youth is not a crime worldwide. I am an activist. I can say unequivocally that this country does not clamp down on being a youth. It clamps down on the activities of most youths. So you can be a docile youth. You are still a youth. It's not a, and like Barrister just said, when people know their limits. Of course, the excesses exist, but when people know, and look at the first open general excess. If today we go out for peaceful protest unarmed, we cannot guarantee we will return off safely. So I don't think the attack is on the youth as per a demography. The attack is on the what is the direction of the youthful vibrancy, because I must use this word, sycophancy. People who are sympathetic towards the aspirations of the establishment that be, whatever excesses they have are protected. They are still used. Now, vibrancy, activism, that contradicts, that opposes, that criticizes. So you can even be beyond your youth. Look at the man, Pharaoh, what is his name? Even
Pharaoh
if he's a youth. So I think it's about support for and against. Gtbank allegedly are enmeshed in this. Details not clear. I think it's a developing story. And like Barrister said, we don't know if it's a scientific coincidence, because this has lingered across a weekend. We cannot tell the fate of the very dark man. Now, I don't know if the Nigerian security has no faith or confidence in itself. We hardly see subpoenas, maybe house arrest. You are just grabbed, thrown in incarceration or in capture. I don't know what that word is. Pending when whatever is determined. And like he said, before all of this will be established, that man would carry a lot of lacerations and bruises that may never be compensated. But the association, the alleged real or unreal, true or untrue involvement in by Gtbank in this case, because Gtbank now by implication is a party in all of these spiral. Gtbank as a business organization has incurred on itself a lot of drawbacks as regards financial and operational impacts. The biggest being reputation damage. And as we speak, whichever experts are engaged, Gtbank can only play catch up. Yes, the bears have left the cages. They can only play catch up. And that will tell you that to a large extent, we cannot determine there will be decline in customer base, or people who are no longer enamored or attracted by the Gtbank brand. Again, it is not established, but I mean, it's a story out there.
Of course.
And if I must land here,
Okay.
if the system was transparent enough and the rights of the Verydarkman are left open, then GTB can face some potential litigation. If that is the place he is allegedly last seen, allegedly delayed, so that whoever picked him up could come there. And most importantly, in a structured system, the involvement of Gtbank, as we speak, opens them to regulatory scrutiny.
So very, very true. You know, Jen, I was telling you this morning, I went on a fact finding to two branches of GTB this morning. just to see, because of course the noise during the weekend was that they were not going to open for services and all. So I went this morning, just to see what was happening there. The sober feeling, the atmosphere was so chilling. Was so I was asking myself, wow, is this the GTB we all used to know? Everybody seemed to be very humble, from the security man at the doorpost to people right inside, the staffers. Everybody was just very cool and welcoming, like it was a new generation bank that just started yesterday and were in need of customers. So I would love to believe, as much as this is still a story that we still need to update you with. I think this is good for reputation management, isn't it?
Yes, it is. You can say that again because going by all what went around on the social media, where youths were lamenting, a lot people were lamenting. Verydarkman actually went there for a complaint of a loan that he said
The mother, no.
the mother that involves his mom and all of it and all of the controversy that came around it. But I want to take us aback with compensation, with having to suffer. Barrister, you made reference to what one would suffer during the process of being picked up for one reason or the other. Why don't we have this compensation coming? We've had
We used to have compensation. Let me tell you what the problem is now. Before Buhari's regime, okay, before Jonathan's regime, you have police accounts, account numbers of police, all where police funds are, the accounts are within the system. Lawyers know those accounts. Okay, the reason I'm saying this is because when you sue the police before, I've gotten judgment for a couple of clients. You get a judgment. Of course, police will tell you they don't have money to pay. So what the next thing you do is to initiate another proceeding to garnish their account.
To garnish the account of the police?
Yes, to
Funded.
to make up the judgment sum. For example, I had a client that I got judgment against the police for 20 million naira. Police will tell you they don't have 20 million naira. But under the legal system, you can go and initiate a garnishing proceedings. In that garnishing proceedings, the judgment creditor, that's the person who won the case, that's my client, a judgment creditor, will initiate that process and they will garnish the police account. The police account that's funded, the court will make an order mandating the bank to transfer the judgment sum from police account to the judgment creditor. That's before Jonathan's era.
Yeah,
because you can visibly know and get the account number of police. So at that time, you were getting a lot of compensation. When the court grant judgment, you do garnishing proceedings, you recover the money for the client. But post-Jonathan, stroke pre-Buhari, they came up with the TSA. Okay, wherein if you want to pay money, you generate remitter. If three of us want to pay money into the same government account, you generate remitter with different number, yours with different number, house with different number, house with different number. So all the accounts that belong to police now, nobody knows where any is. The one I used to have, I had a judgment against police. Okay, it was a 10 million naira judgment. When we only one account that we know then, which we now have, was a community bank police account there at Ikeja. When we went to garnish the account, what was left in the account is 8 naira, 60 something kobo. And we had 10 million to garnish. You understand?
Isn't that funny?
So now, even if court grant the compensation, 40 million, 20, in my office, I have a lot of judgments. So many against police, okay? But how do you enforce it to get the compensation? That's why I say we used to have compensation before, when you can locate the accounts. So that is one thing that the NBA need to look into, perhaps in the coming conference and all that. That the law enforcement agencies are becoming very brazen and emboldened because it doesn't get to them. Before, when that judgment is slammed on them and they garnish their account, what they do is all the officers involved, they start to remove from their salary to get back. Yes. So that way they are cautioned that this thing will affect me economically. So they're not. But today, Nobody is garnishing anybody's account. Everybody's misbehaving, and the rest of that.
All right. While we of course hope, like I did say before, it's a developing story. Right here on Enterprise Television, we promise to bring you updates of some of the stories. It's still Enterprise morning, and let's move on to the Daily Trust newspaper, and we have the big story here: poverty rising in rural Nigeria, and that's coming from World Bank.
All right, still on Daily Trust, we have how Boko Haram attacked Yobe military brigade, killed 4 soldiers.
Yes, and on the bottom strip there we have Lagrawa mounts massive attack in Sokoto, kills 13 hunters. Innocent, I'd love to ask you to take on this particular matter. A couple of days back, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was in Katsina State. I do not know why he was there exactly, but part of the reportage we got was when he promised the people that his government will take care of terrorism with technology. Okay, the details were not there, so it's still very sketchy. But knowing that it is a perennial issue, how do you think this present government can better handle it? Do you think it's ever possible to handle it?
First of all, the president is welcoming Katsina. He is the president commander-in-chief of the Federal Republic. Katsina is an appendage of the entirety of Nigeria, so the president can visit anywhere. Personally, I think the president visited is politically misplaced. Having returned freshly from France and by extension England, where for the first time in my adult life there were lots of newspaper headlines saying Nigeria's president now works remote. I'm surprised that people have swallowed that calmly. That's the biggest embarrassing headline ever. Human beings individually get appointments, you stay and work in Dubai, but not the national president. So when he returns, with the heat that had been cooking in his absence, I would like to see the president in Benue. I would like to see the president in Plateau. I don't know if there were pockets in Enugu and Ondo. Katsina, that's his troll. That does not, the president has not demonstrated patriotic responsibility by bypassing Benue and Plateau and visiting Katsina. And then his promise, Nigeria is a land of promise. Incidentally, that's the acronym for Akwa Ibom State, land of promise. Nigeria is not a land of promise. Where you hear a lot of promise. It comes with a lot of frenzy. Those at the closely supporting the government would celebrate that promise. At the time the promise was birthed.
Yes, the round of applause he got was amazing, actually.
The promises are not kept. If you speak about that, you're a whaler, So, and as we speak, it does not even warrant President Tinubu mouthing promises of technological protections. From the 2015, the APC inherited Boko Haram from the twilight days of Jonathan's administration. We need local government areas to have drones that individuals own. So if you complain that there are people, marauders, assailants, killers in your forest, and you cannot go there out of fear because of what the kind of weapons they have, you can carry out surveillance and pick out these are basic security knowledge. So we shouldn't just hear this in 2025 and it looks like something messianic from Elon Musk is coming our way. We need a lot so that it will underscore the value this country places on human life.
Very true. All right, Barrister, let's maybe you can take a jab on that particular story, but I'd love you to add it to the next story we have here. 54 billion released to schools, 24 billion to students, Nel Fund MD, and it's been discovered that much of that fund was paid to ex-students. Even while the 71 billion, we had discussed that some time back. Yes, so the 71 billion allegation, which he dismissed, but now it's been properly made to the public that loans were given to ex-students. So how do we really manage all of this?
Yeah, there are other reports that a huge chunk of the loan even went to people who are not schooling
At all.
and all that. So it's problem, lack of managerial skills, lack of efficiency in our public service. You know, is this same public service that you have ghost workers? It's like when Olarotimi saying the gods are not to blame, that if a crocodile eats their own eggs, what would they do with the flesh of frogs? So, I mean, we are just not organized at all. We are just unable to do things right. Why should civil servants have their eyes fixed on funds meant to empower the youth of the country? Where is the future? Okay, if the federal government comes up with a program and those who are meant to superintend over the program are so greedy to the point where their eyes is fixed, it's like you are giving food to feed a child and then you turn the food to your own meal. Then where is the child's future? If the youths are the future of tomorrow, and if investment in citizens guarantees nation building, how do you explain that 100 billion naira, an institution is not able to account for it? So what kind of program are you running? So it is time this is a call for the federal government to arrest and investigate all those involved in this racket. Even the people that receive the fund, we need an audit report of those who got what, when, and how. And we need that audit to be so detailed that the identity of those who got it, whether they are students or artisans, or whether the money was meant for people who are out of school already. I thought it was an intervention for those in school to help them take care of tuition. So how come that it's now for maybe coppers or those ex-students and the rest of that? So it's worrisome.
But do you really think we should blame in its entirety a Nel fund at this point, knowing that all they can do is to ensure that this money goes out of the bank to various institutions? They might not be in charge of individual universities allowing people to use their portal to register. An ex-student, of course, who is friendly with whoever it is that's in charge of the portal can readily register. And Nel Fund might not know. So do you think we should entirely blame Nel Fund, or maybe hold universities and other educational institutions responsible for some of these things? Innocent.
Oh, well, it's a global cliche that the buck stops at the table. And in this instance, it's the table of Nel Fund. So if Nel Fund is superintending over this, irrespective of the network of universities, Nel Fund should be on their toes. I've listened to the MD of Nel Fund speak, a very well eloquent man. I feel like they import this my Nigerian brother from abroad. So the universities will have their intricacies. Henry, this kind of fund, if it came my way in my undergraduate days, I'll be better off. So if it's now here and it's still not reaching those it is intended for, it's a miscarriage of justice, even though it's not a court case, And I want to believe in all of this. Everybody at least sitting where they are. This Nel Fund may be agents asking, or I don't know if you're letting me. I mean, offices in Gabriel Almond, his book Structural Functionalism. He says offices, structures exist to fulfill functions. So if we have structures falling short of functions, there should be restructuring. You hear anything in Nigeria, and everybody just sits pretty like nothing happened, nothing went wrong. In Nigeria now, the job of the government is to report to the public that this humongous amount of money has gone missing. So they are responsible enough to inform the public. And once they do that, that's where it is. The money was bequeathed in somebody's custody. He has mentioned the word audit, accountability. We truncate all of this and then adopt methods that lack universal applicability. I doubt if this is how funds are used worldwide. And like he said, investment in the citizens of the country is an insurance of the development of individuals for the future.
Mm-hmm.
So if this kind of fund carries this kind of objective and we are treating them with such levity, I would even look beyond Nelson to those who created Nelson, because Nelson must report somewhere, possibly the Ministry of Education, and that should be an item at the FEC meetings, is it weekly or monthly?
Weekly.
So those are where this needs to trickle down. It's a top-down approach, and the allegations are ugly, very ugly. And in Nigeria, a lot of people, even when the government is efficient, no longer believes in government. So the government has a lot to do. There is a big lacuna where trust is concerned.
Very, very true. And for to clear some facts, Jane, according to the MD, he said as of today that a total of 140 billion has been given to them to Health Fund. They've disbursed 30 billion to institutions. They've disbursed 24 billion as grants to the same students, and they've empowered 293,000 Nigerian students. I did the maths, very big maths, so I did it. And what that meant was basically every student received 130,000 naira. That's what it meant.
I think
Every student, that's 293,000, right? If you do the math. So what every student, as of today, with the 30 billion that has been disbursed to them, has received is 130,000 naira. Is that enough? That's the question.
It is intended for their tuition, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's not even about if the money is enough. It's about did it reach? I mean, did it reach this to the? I mean, let's just like you mentioned, we need accountability, not just about where these funds, went, we directed to, but these students should come and confirm that they actually.
Let's see the physical students that have received it.
Saying that they received this money. That's a major thing.
All right, I think right here on Enterprise Television, maybe we have to do that investigative work, Jane. Go to every school and get to know the people.
True,
the people that have received these things, even if they are alive or they are not, or they are spirits or not. But of course, we have to leave it at this particular point on this segment, and just to let you know, both gentlemen will be here to take us on in conversation.
And when we return, ministers promise to create 5 million jobs face skepticism amid demands for transparency and youth involvement.
That in a bit, still Enterprise Morning. Please don't go in.